This is a video to explain how to make a simple graph in Excel from results that you gather in an experiment. I'm going to use the desktop app. There is an online version accessed through Microsoft 365, and there is also an app on your iPad. They all pretty much do the same thing, but the location of different buttons is slightly different. So you'll have to look at the icons I select and try and find them in your version if you're in a different version. For me, I think just open up a blank workbook is normally the way to go. And then the first step is to take your data that you've gathered. Here's an example of a student from one of my classes, and you're going to put it into Excel. So they had an independent variable of paper clips, and they used 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 paper clips on their experiment. For their dependent variable, they had time, and they had 3 trials. 1, 2, 3 trials. We would like to put a heading above 1, 2, 3, but I've run out of space. So if you do that, just click on the number 1, and then right-click, insert, and it will put you one above it. So then I can put above these that it's what the dependent variable is. As you can see, it's 3 boxes. So I'm going to make it 1 box. You can right-click on it, or there's an icon up here. Looks like a box with arrows. It's called Merge and Center. Click on that, and it turns those 3 boxes into 1. And we can call that time for helicopter to fall, and we measure time in seconds. So remember to put in brackets your units if there are any. Paper clips, we don't really have units for it. You could call it the mass of the helicopter measured in paper clips, but I think let's not. I'd like to make these 2 boxes 1, so I'm going to do the same merge thing and do it like that. I also want an average here, which I haven't accounted for in my boxes, so I'm going to have to unmerge and merge to make it form 4. The lines are hard to see, so I'm going to select all my boxes, and I'm going to select this little one here, and I'm going to make all the borders visible. Sometimes it helps. You can even put a thick border around the outside or a thick border around the dependent and the independent, something like that, to make it stand out. You can even change the colour of your boxes if you would like them to have slightly different tones to it so that you can see. It all just helps spot things and sort of separates things a little bit. There we go. And then we put the numbers in. In these boxes down here should only be numbers. Don't put the units. The units should be at the top. So in these boxes, here's results. We're 1.94, 1.94, 2.0, but really 0, because we keep the same number of decimal places. Press enter. But you'll notice Excel thinks it's clever. It turns 2.00 into 2. But we need to show those decimal points. So I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to format cells. I'm going to go to number and turn it into 2 decimal places. I can actually do that for all of these if I wanted to. So I can select them all, right click, format cells, number, 2 decimal places. And then anything I put in here, if I write 2, it will just do it automatically for me. This is actually 1.41. 1.47, 1.31, 1.03, 1.28, 1.57, 1.15, 1.43, sorry this is a bit boring, 1.28, also 1.28, 1.19, 1.04. Great. And then we want an average. You can do the average manually. You can add them up and then divide them all by 3. The beauty of Excel is that it has something called formulas. So we can click on it. It's a normal function I want to do. So I can go to auto sum and look at the list, and it tells me average. But look, it's included the paper clips. So I'm just going to only include the 3 I want. You can see it's average B3. That's B3 to D3. 3. So it's selected those 3 boxes. I can see it in the formula. I'm going to press enter and it will do it for me. And because I told it 2 decimal places, it will do them all. Then I can select that box and get the corner and drag it down, or if you double click, it just does it all the way down for you. There we go. That is now your results made for the purposes of a sort of early science stuff. That is it. You've done all the processing you would need to do. You can now select it, copy paste it into a Word document for your work. I recommend pasting it as an image or telling it to keep your formatting, otherwise it changes it to suit your Word document, and sometimes that's not what you want. So an image, when you paste it, works well. Then we're going to make the graph. The graph, we're going to use the independent variable, so I'm actually going to copy and paste that, but I'm going to tell it just to paste the values only. And then we want to plot it against the average. So again, I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste, and again, I'm going to tell it values only. Yeah? Here we have the results we're going to graph. So I select them, I go to insert, and then there are some, let me just move it into screen a bit more. There are some graphing options. For the most part, you want to use this lower right one called an XY scatter, and we want just the dots. And here we have our results plotted. But we're missing some key bits. We're missing a title, so we need to change the title. And we're missing some labels on the axes. So I'm going to go to, in the chart design section, or if you're on an iPad, you have to right click it and tell it to format, and then the options come up here. But on the app, I go to add chart element, and I can add a title for the x-axis, I can add a title for the y-axis, which I can then change. I can double click on it, and I can retype that as time for helicopter to fall, remembering to include my units. Again, up the side, I can rename it paper clips. Oh, hang on, no, that's the other way around, isn't it? I'd need to rewrite them the correct way around. I'd need to give it a title. And then we want a line of best fit. We don't join up the dots anymore, so we do what we call a trend line, a line that shows the overall pattern, the overall trend. So add chart element, trend line. For this results, it's likely to be linear, so I'm going to click on linear, and there we have it. If you want to be really fancy, we can click on that line, and it gives us some options of which we can change the type of line we have if we think that we're in the wrong one. We can tell it to go through fixed points. We can forecast forwards and backwards, so we could make a prediction. If we forecast forwards, we could predict what 6 paper clips would look like. And see, it's extended the line out to where 6 is, and we could predict how many paper clips, at what time it would take if you had 6 paper clips. We could even extend it backwards to the start, so that we can see how long it would take to fall if it had no paper clips. And we can even get it to show the equation, which not so relevant in this experiment, and we can get it to show the R squared. Again, not that relevant, but your R squared tells you how close your dots are to the line, basically. An R squared of 1.0 means all of your points are perfectly on a line. An R squared of 0 tells me the points are everywhere. So an R squared of 0.7 means my dots are fairly close to the line, but not great. I would like to see an R squared of 0.8 or more, but that's okay. When I evaluate my experiment, I would probably comment on the R squared being not great. That graph is now ready to be copied and pasted. You can add colour to your graph if you want to try and give it a little bit of just try and make it look a little bit more appealing to the eye. You can set colours, although, I'm doing the border, that's why I was like, why is it not actually changing the colour? Yeah, you can give it some colour to just make it look a bit nicer. you can change the font, you can change all sorts about it. But yeah, it's ready to copy paste into your Word document. Again, I would do that as a picture so that it doesn't change the formatting that you've just played about with. And remember to make sure that everything is correct on it, that you've got a trend line, your data points are plotted where you think they should be, that you've got your axes labelled correctly and the correct way round, and that you've got your title on there. And that is now ready for you to write a conclusion about.